So this is all live at the moment. Well, welcome to everyone who's already here to a little, this is your life. We're starting today for the Saratoga City Council Candidates Forum. We have 5 of the 6 here, and the 6th one is working her hardest to be with us. And this is sponsored by the Residents Council of the Saratoga Retirement Community. Special thanks for all the candidates who are with us today. There has been a drawing randomly for your speaking order, and it will be, of course, Cookie first, and she's the one having trouble getting in. So she has taken the last position, gracefully, I'm sure. And I would like us just to hope that everyone is able to be in touch now, and the volume and audio is getting, the audio and video is getting to everyone.
Hugh,
yes.
there should be a 408 number in the participants. A number ending in 8245. Can you make that number a panelist? I have Cookie on the line.
Well, how do I do that? And now that we're going, let's see if she's able to solve this within the 10 minutes until she will be on, and we'll solve it at that moment. And we'll start now with the panelists and their introductions. Tina, would you like to begin, please?
Thank you, Hugh, and thank you, Saratoga Retirement Community, for sponsoring this forum. It is a very nice civic contribution from your group. My name is Tina Walia. I'm pleased to be here, even though this is virtually via Zoom. As an architect, I appreciate the historic and beautiful SRC campus, a quiet hidden gem in Saratoga. I am well aware of its expansion plans. In being a sitting planning commissioner, ethically, I cannot take a position on the project. However, I'm always committed to understanding all the issues. In the last month, I have toured the campus twice, and I've had the honor to meet many residents. They also reminded me of my parents and my grandparents. Seniors are very special to me, whether it is my 94-year-old neighbor or my prior neighbors who currently live at SRC. I am proud that a large number of people supporting my candidacy are senior citizens. They have written letters of support and have made financial contributions. Thank you, Saratoga residents. I am the only candidate who has stated clearly right at the outset that my campaign is 100% funded by Saratoga residents. I represent only Saratoga interests. And here are a couple of my key priorities for Saratoga. We are under the state and regional pressure to urbanize, and there are issues with transparency and suitable community engagement that I would like to focus on. The first one is to work to enhance our city for balanced growth, actively protecting the small town, low density character with the green open spaces that we all cherish in Saratoga. Secondly, I would like to focus on early and appropriate community engagement with transparent and clear messaging from the city. I'm committed to senior programs and will be personally involved in getting all neighborhoods ready to enhance safety with respect to crime, wildfires, or any other emergency. Thank you. Hugh, you are on mute.
I went on mute because we did get Cookie in. So we can continue now. John Fitzpatrick.
Hi, everyone. My name is John Fitzpatrick, and thank you to Hugh and the Residents Association and SRC for hosting this. My 3 top priorities are responsible growth, that protects open space and favors local control, an open and transparent leadership from our city government, and city government that's more responsive to the emergencies that we're now facing in terms of wildfires, pandemic, even crime, something that was previously relatively unheard of in Saratoga. And I'd like to see a more proactive approach from our city. I think we've been largely reactive, and there's been an attitude of, it seems like, what can we get away with while no one's paying attention, frankly. And that's exactly what I am running to oppose. I want to see a city government that is responsive to the needs of its residents, not developers and their associates. And I think we're seeing now what happens when a complacent electorate and poor planning results in fiascos like Keto Market, which is going to be high density housing now, which will fundamentally alter the character of our city. If we had retained more jobs like Roku, who previously was at that very same plaza, then we would not be facing that problem today. So as a City Hall outsider, I will be the most independent in my policy making. And with my experience as an attorney, I know how to apply the law and to represent the people that I serve. I think compromise is key, and being able to work with other people and listen to what their concerns are is very important to me. So thank you.
Thank you, John. And we will use this as a yellow warning at 30 seconds and this at the end. We are finally getting this thing going. Thank you very much. Now, Bilal Aftab.
Great, thanks, Hugh. Thank you to the Saratoga retirement community for hosting this forum tonight. I'm honored to be here digitally in front of all of you. Today is an important day. It's the first day ballots will start arriving at each of our homes for the 2020 election. In our city, we 6 candidates are vying to fill 2 spots that are open this election. In our city, no one person is in charge. Instead, we elect a council of 5, and this team of 5, with their collective priorities, perspectives, and experience, set the vision for the city and work with the city staff to execute on it. I'm particularly honored to be in this forum today as the older adults in Saratoga are of significant personal importance to me. There is one person in particular, and that's my mom. I like to joke that we're roommates, but let's be clear, she's very much in charge. My father passed away about 10 years ago, and I moved back in with my mom to be here a couple years back. So I have a firsthand account on a daily basis of the issues that my mom and her numerous friends go through. And to be clear, my mom is very independent, and she and her friends are strong, powerful people that get everything done. But it's great to be here and be with her, but also to witness some of the challenges that she has as a number of folks in Saratoga are getting older. If elected, over the next 4 years, I believe that we as a city and council must prioritize a robust COVID health response and recovery for our seniors and families, community safety regarding wildfires, crime and traffic, local control of our neighborhoods, and financial responsibility and transparency. I promise to be a team player that will work in Saratoga's best interest and to always represent us well. I would be honored to have your vote this election, and just in case you're looking for a second opinion, I've been endorsed by Congresswoman Eshu, Supervisor Joe Simidian, 5 mayors, and numerous other officials and community leaders. You can learn more about me and my candidacy at bilalforsaratoga.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug Case.
Thank you, Hugh. Thank you to the Saratoga retirement community for hosting this forum. And thank you to all those visiting from home. My name is Doug Case, and it's a pleasure to join you all in this second of 3 candidate forums. My wife and I have lived and worked with Saratoga as our home for over 20 years. About 10 years ago, we built an ADU in our own home for my mother-in-law. She turned 93 last week. As the kids leave and some come back, we all still enjoy Saratoga together. Keeping generations in the same town is kind of special. The Saratoga retirement community is a beautiful and historical place that I've had the pleasure to visit, and it reminds and it keeps generations of families close together. My parents found a similar community to SRC in Haymarket, Virginia, and it often took 3 days for a return phone call because they were having so much time socializing with their neighbors. I'm running because I have 30 plus years in a broad range of businesses: finance, energy, pharma, home security with large and many early stage startups. The common thread in my career has been learning the market, listening to the customer, and delivering to expectations. I've been involved in my community in youth sports leagues, church service day, and charities. I want to join the council and apply these qualifications and deliver to your expectations. The essence of Saratoga is safety, seniors, village business success we can all enjoy, and to sustain our city's unique rural plan with responsible growth. My name is Doug Case, and I want to be your next council member. Thank you.
Thank you. And Renee Paquet.
Thank you, Hugh, and thank you to all of the residents of the Saratoga retirement community for allowing me this opportunity. And to my fellow candidates, it is an honor to be here with you again. My name is Renee Paquet, and I hope to be your next representative and voice on the Saratoga City Council. For those of you whom I've met in years past when visiting the SRC to promote cultural diversity, or perhaps to invite you to events at West Valley College, you're familiar with my strong track record and my passion for serving our community. As the chair of the Saratoga Parks and Recreation Commission, I've been an advocate for open space preservation, and I'm strongly against the development of high-rise commercial buildings that will ruin the essence of our beautiful city. Whether it is delivering weekly meals with the RIDE program to our seniors who are isolated and alone due to shelter in place, COVID, or educating the next generation of our workforce and youth as a dean at West Valley College, I have an age-friendly approach to finding solutions that will meet the needs of our community. Together, we will create safe and strong neighborhoods, continue to provide the high-caliber education that our children deserve, protect our city from big developers, and preserve the character of Saratoga. Together, we will improve the lives of our seniors, reinvigorate our commercial districts, and honor the diversity of the voices in our community. I have firsthand experience and knowledge about our community, a deep commitment to finding out what the needs of our community are, what steps are necessary to meet those needs, and the academic background and training that are essential for all community leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have number 6 of the candidates, Cookie Fitzsimmons, at least here by microphone. Cookie, are you there? Cookie, can you clear your mute if you have any on?
Hugh, if she's added as a panelist, perhaps you have to unmute her.
Well, she doesn't show up.
Can someone tell me
Came in as a phone.
Can someone tell me what the code is to unmute? Because I dialed Cookie in. That's how I was able to get her. And then I basically dialed in and then conferenced her in. So it's probably my phone that's on mute. Can someone tell me what the Zoom code is? It's like probably pound something that would unmute me.
832.
Not the code, but is there something I would dial into my keypad?
Try #6.
#6? Okay, great. I'll be right back because I put the phone in the other room. So that should unmute Cookie. Give me 1 second.
Anybody know a joke?
Yes. Under the participants, the only
Bilal's a magician.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Great, thank you. My huge apologies to everyone. I'm so sorry. There's been insurmountable technical problems. My apologies, and thanks to everyone for helping. Thank you, Hugh. I'd like to thank the Saratoga retirement community for this opportunity for the community to learn more about all of us. I am Cookie Fitzsimmons. I am currently a Saratoga Planning Commissioner with more than 6 years experience and a community leader with 30 years of volunteer service in Saratoga. I am committed to celebrating Saratoga. One of my fondest memories is when I opened Corinthian Flowers on the corner in the Saratoga Village. The building had a colorful history. It was also a flying A gas station and a moped repair shop. During the 15 years that I had the flower shop, I came to love the community even more. I especially found myself looking forward to the annual events such as the parade in the village, the pumpkin walk, and the annual village open house on the Friday after Thanksgiving. You may remember that the Fitzsimmons family made homemade Italian cookies called cuccidati that the community enjoyed. Some of my volunteer services were president of the Village Merchants Association, chair of the Blossom Festival, Saratoga Rotary Art Show co-chair. My current profession is in clinical research. My work involves budgets of over $20 million. You may have already known me personally for my involvement and deep commitment to serving our beautiful Saratoga. You know of my integrity, fairness, and enthusiasm. I believe in community feedback and transparent government. As a council member, some of the things I will do are: 1, protect our semi-rural atmosphere; 2, cultivate and promote local business; and 3, ensure fiscal responsibility and a balanced budget. You can go find out more about me at my website. Go to electcookie.com. Thank you.
And thank you very much for being able to keep that time without being able to see any of the signals. Thank you. I'm going to adjust things here because under no circumstance would I want this to run longer than an hour and a half. And since we've had about 30 minutes to get to this point, let's cut to the chase. A couple of questions will just have to go by the board. But in this last year, one of the big news this year was the city considering annexing the famous Paul Masson Mountain Winery, which has grown to an internationally known concert venue holding 2,500 patients. Not annexed, its future development is through the county. Annexed, it would be controlled by the city. Which way would you have voted on that annexation, and why? Starting in order, but with John Fitzpatrick.
Thank you for the question, Hugh. I would have been opposed to the annexation and would have voted no to that because while I think that there were some mistakes made that didn't necessarily represent accurately what actually transpired in terms of the proposal, I think that there are legitimate concerns with the safety planning and with for instance, with the landslide building in that particular area. I'm not satisfied that we've evaluated that sufficiently and have a sufficient plan in place to deal with that. And I know that previously we've cut corners, our city has cut corners on that sort of thing, and it's resulted in cave-ins of streets that have cost the city a lot of money to have to repair. So I would be opposed to that until or unless there were sufficient plans in place to protect the open space areas surrounding that and to evacuate people in the case of an emergency like a fire, which is becoming all too regular an occurrence here. 4 million acres of California have burned this year, double the previous record. So I don't think that there was enough planning done. I think it was an impulsive decision, perhaps, although I know it's been considered for a long time. So, but it's the type of thing that the residents should be on board with. It shouldn't be the kind of thing that that gets railroaded through in the middle of a pandemic when nobody's paying attention. And so for those reasons, I would have opposed it. Now, that doesn't mean I would permanently oppose it. It's a wonderful venue and it gives a lot to Saratoga. So I think there could be positives, but I don't think that we're there yet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bilal.
Thanks, Hugh. Can you hear me?
Yes, fine.
And just to recap, the colored signs, what are they? I missed because I was dialing in Cookie at the time.
The gold is for 30 seconds.
30 seconds, okay.
And the red for stop.
Okay, great, thank you. And it's a great question. My direct answer is I also would have voted against the annexation. I think the residents did the right thing in organizing and bringing attention to the matter. I think the concept of adding a 300-unit building up in an area that already has considerable wildfire concerns, and as someone who chairs the Traffic Safety Commission, we hear from residents in that area all that time, especially when it comes to events at the Mountain Winery. There's enough issues about fire engines getting up there and the like, and so I think it's one of those things where the idea of adding 300 units to me just doesn't make any sense at all. It's just too much. The one thing I will acknowledge, though, is that the city is affected by all that happens at the winery. And so, similar to what John said, I can acknowledge that I think at some point in the future, it might make sense, but the terms and conditions of that have to be right, and absolutely not with a 300-unit building. I think some of the learnings from this are pretty important as well. Virtually all the candidates are running with one of our platform items being transparency in government. And I think that's something that we all feel very strongly about, because we felt that at every level, whether it was the council, the city staff, the commission, residents, I think we all just want to understand what's going on. And I think that's been a really good lesson for us. I also think it's a lesson for us broadly to think about how are we communicating what is being discussed at the city and at commissions more broadly, right? Because this wasn't just a thing that was discussed at the city council. There are all sorts of things that are discussed at various commissions that affect all of us as well. My ask to residents is to stay engaged, right? We are a limited services government. And there are times where the council and the city are going to get things really right. And there are times where we're not. And what I want to say is here, the system worked because we got residents' feedback and we didn't do the annexation. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Doug Cates.
So I've been out and met with a lot of neighbors and had coffee downtown with a lot of people. And this has come up probably 50% of the time as an issue. And the way I look at it, I think that the 300-room headline was very misleading. I'm from Pennsylvania, and we used to make a joke about talking like this: throw father down the stairs, his hat. Well, that's not what you're trying to do here. You're not trying to get a 300-room hotel. That's a headline. That's basically Planning Commission saying that's the maximum zoning you can do. It's no different than an environmental report. That's the maximum you can do under CEQA, California Environmental Quality Assessment. That's all it is. It was never, we never had a voice in this because it was a headline. So nobody got to see the process go through where there was a discussion of what the project could be in that zone. I don't know if the economics of a 300-room work at all in Saratoga. I find that really hard to believe. If you look back at a very good website, which is quite easy to remember, it's like addressing an envelope. It's saratoga.ca.us. That's the city's website. You go in there and you search, and you'll see that there was information, PDF and meeting minutes and meeting discussions on this project, talking about the annexation. Well, now we have voted it out. We will not annex it. It'll stay in the county. We have no voice. We have no tax dollars. I looked at the finance balance sheet today, the income statement of expenditures and incoming revenues, and it was like $400,000 from ticket sales. Imagine what we could have got as part of a bigger, piece of taxes from Saratoga's Mountain Winery. Well, we're not going to get that now. That's my 10 cents on it. I would have voted to delay the vote.
Renee Paquet.
Thank you, Hugh. Short answer or simple answer is I would have voted against the annexation. What I would have liked to have seen is that the community would have been brought in earlier to this discussion. Now, I'm not talking about the community within the 10-mile radius, for example, because if I remember correctly, actually, the information to the community members within that community were actually, or that lived within a 5 or 10-mile radius, were actually communicated to and were aware of this, and the information was available to them from perhaps even the start, perhaps even as soon as it was sent over to the Planning Commission. What was missing here, and what I hope to have in our next generation of the City Council, is to involve all Saratogans, not just the ones that are living within 5 or 10 miles of especially a major development project such as this. This concerns all of us, not just the people living off that road or around that area. This is for everyone, and their concerns should have been brought in earlier on. Another thing I'd like to address is the Mountain Winery will continue to operate. It will continue to also be a burden on our city, especially for road maintenance. Therefore, as a city council, we need to come up with a plan that addresses the impacts that the Mountain Winery will continue to have on our roads, as well as the threat it has on our to landslides. That's what we need to address. It's there. What plans are we going to come up? How are we going to be proactive in our approach? Thank you.
Thank you. And Cookie Fitzsimmons. Cookie, are you on?
Do I need to go unmute her again? I can do that.
Yes, we were getting interference.
I'm going to go unmute. I'll be right back.
Here we go. Cookie
Hi, can you hear me?
Fitzsimmons.
Yes. Hi, Hugh. Can you hear me?
Yes, Cookie.
Great. Thank you. Hi. This is such a great question. This is such a hot topic, and it's part of the reason why I decided to run for city council. For me, this was like the straw that broke the camel's back. So I was on the Planning Commission, and I did vote against moving the annexation forward. The whole reason we got into the Mount Winery discussion was because the county was portrayed as a poor steward. However, in the last 20 years with the county, there have been no new structures added, only some buildings have been fixed. So it seems to me that the county has been a good steward for 20 years. I think we made the right decision. So here we have this situation that has come before us at the Planning Commission, and it becomes apparent pretty clearly at a certain point in January that there was a transparency issue. This transparency issue was not new to the Mountain Winery. It's been going on for a couple of years. It just came to a head with the Mountain Winery. So we clearly have a transparency issue. I still think we need to do a failure analysis as to everything that went wrong with the Mountain Winery application. We can only learn from it. I was grateful to be part of the Planning Commission, one of the planning commissioners, who was able to slow down the process so that the neighbors could regroup and get together and get their message forward. So I'm very proud of that. I'm glad that I was able to do that for the neighbors. That's all. Thank you, Hugh.
Thank you. And Cookie, there was some noise coming from behind your microphone, which is why I asked you to mute before. So if we can avoid any of the background there, then I won't mute you again. We won't have that problem again. And next, Tina Walia.
Thank you, Hugh. For me, this is not a hypothetical question. I led the Planning Commission discussion on this. I voted no. There were a couple of reasons for that. The first thing is it was not a pure annexation. It was an annexation noticed to very limited residents in the city as an annexation, but it was an annexation with an agreement, a vested right, a contract for the developer to be allowed to have a 300-room hotels. Once the documents would have been approved, the city would have never had the opportunity, the choice to reduce that from 300 rooms. I did read the 2,000 pages of the environmental report. That's something I do. I always read all the material. Just to give you a little scale, the 300 rooms hotel would have been much larger than the Cypress Hotel that we have in Cupertino at the junction of Stevens Creek and De Anza. That one is about 200 rooms. So this would have been 300 rooms on top of a hill where the hillside zoning should have been applied, but it wasn't. And the concerns from the residents were not answered. Even when the residents got the opportunity to express their concerns, we were never able to give them the answers. This is a situation in a very high fire risk zone. Emergency safety evacuation would have been the problem. And the county later on agreed very openly, said that they would only allow a 6-room bed and breakfast. We went about it backwards. We should have informed the whole city. In fact, we should have included the county rules first. And there was a lot that was not done in the manner that would have worked well for the community. We ignored the concerns of the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Going from the past to a real immediate future problem. Saratoga's great standard of living requires many workers with modest incomes for whom there is no housing. The state is requiring each city to share the responsibility of providing such housing, and Saratoga has not done so. How would you lead Saratoga on this issue? And we'll start this time with Bilal.
Thanks, Hugh. You can hear me okay?
Good.
Great. And to emphasize Hugh's point here, basically the state and the region are going to be handing down requirements that we have to abide by in terms of building. And unless we build those, there will continue to be consequences for the city of Saratoga, consequences that end up making a city like Saratoga almost more of a target for outside developers to come in and for us then to lose that much more local control. And that's the key term here. I think it's just part of a broader problem where we will continue to lose local control until we can get thoughtful and strategic about this. We need to wrestle that back from Sacramento. And similar to how I mentioned in the last forum, I think we need to come together as a community and talk about this. I think the Mountain Winery was a really good conversation to get things started about how we think about land use and development in the city. And it invited a larger set of people into the tent that otherwise weren't talking about it before. And I think we need to leverage that energy and form a task force to think about how we're going to respond to these things. Because I think we as a city council, if there's one lesson we've taken away from the example we just talked about, is we need to learn from residents and get their input as well. Part of the reason I say that is because we have some of the smartest residents in the state, right? The city of Saratoga has some really smart people. We have some remarkable surgeons, doctors, entrepreneurs, lawyers, all people who come from really smart backgrounds who we can work together to come up with a plan. One of my favorite quotes is, "A fool with a plan will always outsmart a genius without one." And I think we need to come together as a city and think about that, right? Which is, hey, like, what are the tactics we want to think about here? Should we think about partnering with other cities and maybe jointly engaging in a lawsuit? What are the ramifications of that if we win? What are the ramifications if we lose and set a horrible precedent? So there's a lot of issues like that that we need to work on, and we ultimately need your input to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug Case.
Thank you. This is a very interesting question that we don't have a lot of power in Saratoga to address this. So what has happened is at the state level, the government in Sacramento has come up with about 3.5 million new houses needed, and they've pushed that down from an assessment done maybe 5 years ago. Well, with COVID and the distribution you can have of residents working remotely now, this is the only silver lining of COVID that I can see. Perhaps we should reassess that and see if we can push our supervisors, assemblymen, state senators to have to come up with a more current view of the housing needs. Now, if you start that way, then Saratoga should be on the list of cities that are affected by this, because we are. But if you keep it at a local level and that's all you talk about, our supervisor has in Mountain View Google, and the other supervisors have Facebook, and they have Apple and Netflix and any 401k. Those are the biggest stocks that move in the market. I don't know if they really care about Saratoga's housing concerns, right? So I think it's a much broader issue, and I think it's a bit naive to think that we can push back and sue the state over this. There's no lawsuits that ever worked on this. And finally, I just think if we could look at Saratoga as 99% developed with one undeveloped commercial plot left, and realize that we would focus our attention at the state level with our reps to push for a reassessment of housing needs for the Bay Area and California as a whole.
Good, thank you. Renee Paquet.
Thank you, Hugh. Well, bottom line is we need affordable housing, and we're being told by the state that this is what we have to do. So what are we being asked to do? 1,900 to 2,000 units, a 20% increase in the next 8 years. We don't have the space for 2,000 additional homes. So what do we need to do? We must face this head on and engage with state legislatures and the Association of Bay Area Governments to reduce our allocation. Did you know that this certified housing element that the state is requiring us to do needs to be approved by the state by December of 21? That's a year and a couple months away. If we do not do this, we will lose our certified housing element, and we will lose our #1 defense against the state, which is having developers follow our rules rather than their own. We cannot risk losing any kind of control or any type of control over our development in the city. So what's the solution? I propose heavy open communication. As one of my fellow candidates just mentioned, as Bilal mentioned, we have incredibly smart people within our city. We have subject matter experts from all areas, from all elements of the workforce. Why not bring them in? Why not create a commission to bring their opinions and to bring their advice in? Start working on a strategic plan, first with the first goal of coming up with the certified housing element, and then the 8-year plan to meet this goal. And not only that, but also how to communicate with our state legislators and the Association of Bay Area Governments to reduce that allocation. Together, we can address this. Together is the only way we can find a solution. Thank you.
Thank you. And John Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Hugh. Such a relevant question. And I liked what some of my fellow candidates had to say. The organization, as some mentioned, is the Association of Bay Area Governments that's setting this quota. And the regional housing needs assessment is what determined the numbers that we're set with. I'm the only candidate that I know of with a plan to address this directly. The loss of local control is based on the fact that, well, these changing state laws are taking away our development decisions. And if we would have been proactive instead of reactive and created jobs in Saratoga by welcoming or encouraging a company like Roku, as I mentioned, who was in Quito Market, if we had made ourselves the type of place that they would want to continue to do business, we would have prevented that high density housing from going in there. And I don't think that we can, I don't think that litigation is realistic either. I think it's costly and the outcome is incredibly uncertain. So we need to figure out other ways to deal with it. And the solution, I think, is to get ahead of it, to be proactive, to create jobs here. We don't have enough jobs in Saratoga. The model of our city that created it this way is based on 1950s thinking that thought that a bedroom community was favorable to all others. And we're seeing now the effect of that. And we're seeing that we can't just hide from it and continue to bury our heads in the sand. We need to do something about it. And I believe that creating jobs here would do that. And I'm not talking about just any jobs. It's important what type of jobs they are, because highly skilled jobs are what we need, not low paying wages. So thank you.
Thank you. And Bilal, if I could get some help from you again, because Cookie has disappeared while Tina replies.
Sure.
No.
Did you want me to start instead of Cookie? You? Are you changing the order?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. So firstly, I believe the question was, how can Saratoga?
Oh, I'm sorry. She
Cookie.
has
Okay.
come on.
I'll hold. I'll hold.
Thank you. Cookie Fitzpatrick. Cookie Fitzsimmons.
Hi, Hugh. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. So this is such a huge topic. This is major for us. There are things that we can control and things we cannot control. So we need to be strategic and we need to be creative. And one thought is to perhaps incentivize current homeowners, to encourage them so that we can increase our ADU inventory, accessibility, and perhaps incentivize with maybe reduced fees or expedited application process. In any event, if we were to get some more ADUs, maybe a house is too big for someone whose family is already raised and gone. Wouldn't that be nice if we could, for example, have teachers live there, or first responders, or local workers? So it's such a tough question. It's out of our control. We just need to be creative and strategic, and maybe we can come up with some good ideas. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. And now to Tina Walia.
Thanks, Hugh. This question has a lot of angles to it. Having worked on all the 6 elements of the general plan, I would say there are numerous things we can do and we should do. So firstly, let me respond to the question that was, how can Saratoga lead on this issue of adding housing? The first thing is, I have worked numerous times on adding the accessory dwelling units. So every house, single family house, can have additional homes. That would be perfect for us to add housing. And I have been talking over the years with the city manager, and I have also talked to the council members, that we need to find incentives. We need to bring community awareness that if we want to maintain our standard of living, the quality of life we cherish in Saratoga, we need to engage and inform the community. I'm not learning this today. I'm not saying this. I have been working on this. I've been talking about this. So we need to let people, the residents, know we need to have the accessory dwelling units. There is another angle, the one-size-fits-all numbers coming from Sacramento. We don't have jobs. So in the name of jobs, when we are saying we need to reduce the vehicle miles traveled for climate action, it just doesn't add up. Saratoga doesn't have the jobs, never had the space. So we do need to work with the other small cities so that we can have strategic representation in Saratoga. Above that, we have already lost our one commercial center, Keto Center. We may be at risk of losing our only grocery store left in town, that is Safeway. So we need to work on tightening our rules, our ordinances, work on the general plan, so that the developers don't come in and maximize their profits in the name of affordable housing, which is exactly what they have done in Keto. If we had focused on Keto rather than focusing on Mountain Winery, we may probably not have lost Keto Center the way we did. Thank you.
Thank you. The Oddfellows, through their management company, PRS, is proposing a sizable improvement and expansion program for their senior retirement community off Fruitvale Avenue. It's opposed by the majority of the residents in that community. At this early stage, do you have any thoughts about this development? Starting now with Doug Case.
Thanks, Hugh. I was able to visit the facility, not the facility, the manor, but the campus, and was presented, as the other candidates were, an overview that was an alternative to PRS's two-story building with underground parking suggested project. And as we know, the residents don't like the idea of disruption for years, and there's safety concerns around just walking, but also egress in the event of an earthquake or a fire, because there's only one egress point. The second egress point is past a 140 unit below market rate facility, and it's not an easy path to get out. There's a narrow space with a poor pavement there. So what I would do is, let the residents' idea of a single building that would expand the facility with up to 50 additional apartments go forward, so that the process and the project could be reviewed. Right now, it is early, Hugh, as you mentioned, and it's not something that can be decided at this point. As I've said earlier, a lot of times there's a headline instead of a footnote from the Planning Commission. They should be advising on a plan that they've seen, that they've studied, to the council, and then the council reviews that with the residents of Saratoga and certainly the SRC on what to do next. And then we do what's best for Saratoga. That's called responsible growth. So that's the way I would look at that.
Good, thank you. Renee Paquet.
Thank you, Hugh. First, I would like to thank everyone from the SRC who has reached out to me to discuss their concerns about this project. I'm quite familiar with the beauty of the campus due to my involvement and volunteering, as I mentioned earlier. So I've been there quite a few times in the last 15 years. In fact, my background is the SRC, a picture of the Oddfellows home and the beauty of that I love sharing with my students on campus, so that they can see and appreciate the beauty of not only the campus and the main building, but also of the surrounding area. So little trivia note for those that have the picture. The proposed changes, decisions are being made by people who don't live at the SRC. The proposed changes have been done without the input of our community and the community of the SRC. According to some of the residents that I spoke with at the last survey taken from the residents at the SRC, 80% of the residents disagreed with the current proposal. It is imperative for decision makers to listen to all residents and understand the impact that this proposal will have on their lives. There is a safety issue here as well. There is only one ingress and egress, as mentioned by Doug earlier, and this is dangerous in the event of an emergency. In a time in which we are being threatened by wildfires and medical emergencies, increasing the amount of residents with the lack of allowing fire and safety to enter to serve the residents of the SRC, this has become a major issue and should be part of the discussion. I hope that in any further proposal and plans that are being made, all residents and all of their concerns are taken into consideration. Thank you.
Cookie Fitzsimmons. We're having trouble unmuting you.
I can unmute Cookie, 1 sec.
Thank
Hi,
you.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Hi, Hugh. Thank you. So generally speaking, so I read a lot about this project. I visited the site, and thanks to everyone for sending your emails, your careful, thoughtful emails. speaking generally, we need to be careful, whether it's this development or another development, we need to be careful and do our due diligence. We need to go through the process. All of the stakeholders need to be involved, and we need to have outreach to the community early on. Let's follow the process and do our due diligence. This is the fair thing to do. I know that prior to being on the Planning Commission, as just a resident of Saratoga, when issues came up and I would go down to City Hall and talk about things, you know what? All I really wanted to know was that I was being heard. And that is huge, and that deals with transparency. But first we have to start with the voices need to be heard. And if we can start there, we're off to a good start. I'm all for due diligence and following the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Cookie. Tina Walia.
Thank you, Hugh. So as I mentioned earlier, being a sitting planning commissioner, I cannot take a position on this subject, but I'm happy to walk through what I have been doing for the 10 years. As a decision maker, this is not hypothetical. This is exactly how I have worked. This is what I mentioned earlier about the mountain winery process. So for a large scale expansion project like the SRC, which I have toured, as I mentioned earlier, and thank you for the residents who have shown me the area. I have walked around. I had been there even a few years ago as a member of the Planning Commission when there was something else we were working on. So firstly, I have the understanding of the process. This has not yet come to the Planning Commission at all. I would look at the various general plan elements for something this large a scale. What impacts, having worked on all of those documents, I have a very good understanding of what are the impacts from each perspective, whether it's land use or housing or safety, noise, circulation, or open space and conservation elements. So for example, the open space would be the impact on open spaces or the trails. But anyway, not to get into the specifics, the critical thing is look at the whole campus, look at the impacts on the whole campus, I always seek and value public input at every stage. I go out of my way to get their questions answered on the spot because that minimizes confusion and people follow what is happening. A historic building, perhaps the Heritage Preservation Commission may be looking at it to see if there are any relevant issues there. There would be an environmental impact report. As I said, I will always look at it. Emergency evacuation from wildfires or something else, especially with seniors, would be a big concern, especially with the long, narrow ingress egress. There is another property at the back. The same road leads all the way back to the Fellowship Plaza property as well. As an architect, looking at the aesthetics, the findings, and above all, the city mission statement talks of quality of life for the residents and the neighborhoods. That's important. That's my way of looking at things like this. Thank you.
Thank you. John Fitzpatrick.
Thank you again, Hugh. And I also visited the site and saw what a beautiful facility you have there. Your gorgeous park, the historical building. I'm very troubled with the loss of that park that's been there for a long time and all the wonderful facilities that you have there, bocce ball, the gorgeous oak in the middle of it. I'm concerned with the fact that there's this loophole that's going to be able to allow them to alter the face of a historical building just because it's the side of it. I think that the residents have come up with a smart solution, as Doug said, with the one building option. And I applaud your efforts to oppose this. Tina said that they haven't voted on it, but I think we can learn a lot from the Palm Villas example. That's another facility that was geared towards memory care, and there were similar issues with that. There was a trail planned alongside of it that was completely ignored. The Planning Commission and city staffers, it didn't even have that in their materials. So there's selective viewing going on. And this is the problem that I see in our city government. And my fellow candidates are talking a lot about fairness and transparency. I think it's telling that at least two of them are are commissioners, but are not listing that on their job title. So why is that? They don't want to be associated maybe with these decisions that are being made. And I think we need to do more than just look at these these concerns. I think we need to take them very seriously and recognize that the problem is not development, it's how we develop. And these insider deals that are going on at City Hall, where it's a matter of whether we like the individual or what we think of their character rather than the substance of the proposal. That's very troubling to me. It's also undemocratic, the fact that city staffers are making decisions like withholding information regarding this trail, for instance, at the Palm Villas. So very concerned with this, and I'll be following it closely. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, I think, Bilal.
Yep, that's me. Thanks, Hugh. I also want to thank the residents for all the outreach. I've gotten lots of emails, even letters, and so I really appreciate all the info, and I've seen a lot of the data around the residents' feedback on the building. I've also visited the area as I work on the Traffic Safety Commission. Oftentimes we've got a lot of complaints around speeding and the quality of the roads around Fruitvale and that general neighborhood. Some of the roads are relatively narrow. Part of my background is I worked in finance for a number of years. I worked at Goldman Sachs doing investment banking. And one thing I did work on was I work with real estate investment trusts. And we actually took a look at some healthcare REITs. And the reason I share that is because, Hugh, you asked about our perspective. I was able to take a look at some of the numbers and the math behind the industry more broadly. And I think the trend that we're seeing here is broadly in line with what you're seeing across a lot of healthcare real estate companies, where you're basically seeing more independent living facilities, and that's because it's basically premium rent, if you want to call it that, and then a reduction in skilled nursing facilities because Medicare reimbursements or Medicaid reimbursements would be going down over time. So I think it's always important to understand the economics at play going on behind the scenes. I think the concerns from residents are absolutely valid. I think the noise and traffic sensitivity, I know plenty of folks in my life who have noise sensitivity, and that's a big deal, as well as for the neighbors that are right behind where that fence is. To echo what my fellow candidates have said, I do think there's an element here of the application being incomplete and this being at the early stages. But if I had to comment on a couple of things, it would be as follows. I think first things first, there should be no trail. As someone, I went for a hike, not this past weekend, the weekend before that, I think I almost got hit 4 times by mountain bikers. And so I think there should definitely not be a trail going to the SRC. I think we need to over communicate and be transparent. And my perspective on that is to listen first before over communicating. Listen to the residents, listen to the SRC, listen to the commission, listen to advisors and anyone else in the city that wants to comment on this. I think there are some very important open questions. How long will it take to build? And I'm hopeful that we can find some middle ground. Thank you.
Thank you. The last question before our closings for people is that the pandemic has ravaged the village, the core of Saratoga. Do you have any specific proposals to help revive the downtown? And this would go to Renee.
Thank you, Hugh. As I mentioned in the previous forum, economic recovery is actually one of the top of my top 3 issues. And one of the things I'd like to do, I think you've heard from everyone here today, I think we have a mutual consensus that we need to bring in our community and the subject matter expertise that exists within our community more to the forefront. What I'd like to propose is that we create a strategic plan in partnership with a very much needed Economic and Community Recovery Commission. This commission will consist of these exact community members that have these subject matter expertise. For those of you that may be active on Nextdoor, I'm sure you've seen plenty of people that are extremely passionate about our community and do have incredible subject matter expertise. Why not bring that to a commission? Why not bring that to an open door policy of communication? Why not bring in these elements so that we can recover together? I think you probably see a theme here in what I'm saying and my messaging throughout the night. Together is how we will get over this pandemic. And I think what's important to note here is that this is one of the things that really motivated me to run. We need somebody that approaches our post-pandemic recovery from a holistic perspective, not just somebody that perhaps has subject matter expertise in one area, someone that can address it and comes up with innovative solutions. I believe that as a community leader and as somebody who was an academic leader as well, I have that experience, and I think that will help to better our community and to have us recover not only back to where we were, but to be even better post-pandemic. Thank you.
We're back to the problem of unmuting. Bilal, can we?
I'll be right back. Yep.
Again? Thank you. Oh, thank
Cookie
you.
there?
Hey, great, thanks. Hi,
Yes.
everybody. Hi, it's Cookie.
Cookie, it's yours and we can see you well. I mean, the phone anyway.
Thank you. Again, my apologies for all the trouble and thanks for accommodating me. Everyone probably knows by now I had a business in the village for 15 years. I had the flower shop in the corner there where the Starbucks is right now. I was president of the Village Merchants Association and very, very involved in bringing people into town. We just want to get foot traffic into town. And it's actually kind of a fun, exciting thing to do when everyone works on it. So one question I have is, what we need to think about is, what will the village look like? What will it look like in 5 years? What will it look like in 10 years? What does that look like in terms of building and foot traffic? And then we can move backwards from there. Another thought I had is, it's actually been historically that it's the businesses that come up with the best ideas on how to promote business in Saratoga. For example, Celebrate Saratoga was started by then owner Bill Carlson of Bella Mia, Destination Saratoga by Plumed Horse and Preston Wynn. And the car show was Tiger Tearlink. That was Tiger Tearlink's idea. All of these ideas came from the business owners themselves, and all they needed was support to turn their ideas into reality. That's where the gold is. That's what we need to do, the encouragement. We need to talk to the owners, let them think freely, support them, and who knows what else will be coming out next. Maybe we'll do Celebrate Saratoga again. Maybe there's another iteration of that. But it's not just these one-off things. We need to think every day, day in, day out, how do we support our merchants? And I think probably the key is if we could just look forward to 5 or 10 years, see what that looks like, and what steps do we need to take to meet that vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Tina Walia.
Hi. Firstly, I'm going to take a few seconds to rebut something that was said in the previous question. I have been openly saying, and my title is displayed everywhere, that I'm a planning commissioner. I have not responded to any question that may put me in an ethical, awkward situation. I want that to be very clear. Secondly, regarding Palm Villas, I have voted, I led the discussion on it, and if somebody can watch the video, they will see that I directly commented on the specifics of the trail. The general plan, I quoted from the open space and conservation element, that the general plan prohibits a trail behind multifamily or single family housing. So I just needed to rebut that. And if anybody has any concerns, please watch the video. It isn't an appeal. I cannot discuss the subject at this point in case it comes back to the Planning Commission. Regarding the pandemic ravaged village situation, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. I have worked with these business folks in the village over the last 10 years. I have attended meetings with the property owners, with the village owners when we were working on the village design guidelines. I have been part of the process where we made ordinance changes to improve the village business situation by introducing tasting rooms, by introducing markets, farmers markets, and outdoor music to help the businesses to bring footprint. The incentives given to them have been there. The COVID situation is very complex. I will fully support whatever great ideas they come up with. And as a council member, if I'm given the opportunity, I will fully support and look very closely and work with them and encourage the community to go there and participate as much as is possible under the given circumstances. This healthcare issue is a very complex situation where the county health department is engaged. I will stop right there. All I will say is it breaks my heart.
Thank you. John Fitzpatrick.
Yes, thank you again. Great question. And I just want to say first, I really applaud the efforts that the Saratoga Chamber has made to accommodate the restaurants in our village. I think we've adapted very well with the parklets. I think we need more of that kind of thinking, outside the box thinking that can create solutions like this and that can follow the model of other cities that have been successful in this. This is a national crisis. It's not just Saratoga. It's big box retailers and mail order that's the internet shopping that's causing this phenomenon nationwide. So it's not just us, but I think we can learn, as we did with the parklets, from other communities and adapt solutions to Saratoga that work for us. And I think it's interesting that the group that's supporting two of my opponents actually opposed a development that was planned that would have included an anchor store in our village. And an anchor store is exactly what experts in city planning would agree will help other businesses to retain a diverse array of service providers and retailers, rather than just more of the same. I don't think we want to see just nothing but restaurants and nail salons. I think we need to have some variety, but that can only happen if we have a community that's friendly to those, and adaptable to the needs of our current, our current situation. I think one of the things that we also need is live music in the village. We need something to celebrate coming back from this horrible pandemic. We've all lost people. I lost one of my oldest friends as a result of this, this pandemic. Based on the isolation, he struggled with mental health, and he took his own life about 6 months ago. And I think a lot of people are falling through the cracks. So we need to not just shut everything down. We need to figure out how we can adapt and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Bilal.
Thanks, Hugh. And I think this is a really important question. I really applaud a lot of the suggestions that a lot of my fellow candidates have come up with, and I think we should evaluate all of them. There's a question of vision for the village, right? And to me, the village, I want to see a thriving city center, not just on weekend nights, but throughout the week, but one that really importantly maintains its character. And I want to, applaud some of the other folks that are running as well on the Planning Commission who've done good work on that over the years. Here's the thing, and as John mentioned, Saratoga is not alone in this, right? Every major retailer in the country, JCPenney, Macy's, Sears, are either shutting down thousands of stores or going into bankruptcy. So foot traffic, we need to understand, is down everywhere. The way in which we buy things is fundamentally changing. And the reason it's important to understand that, and why I feel like I'm such a strong candidate, is that's exactly where my expertise comes in. My day job is I work for a company called Stripe, but we're building economic infrastructure for the internet. And the thesis of our company is that businesses will be transacting online more and more. What I want to make very clear is that doesn't mean that business will stop happening offline. It just means that businesses have to adapt. They don't have to change what they sell, but they do have to change where they sell, how they sell, and the tools they sell with, right? You're no longer getting people to walk in through the front door. You're getting people to come to your website or look you up on Yelp or Google Maps and use that as a means of discovering your store. And then you have to use the tools to keep them coming back. A couple of things I'll bring. The question was about what should the city do? First things first, as someone who's worked in the world of growth equity investing, picking winners and losers is hard enough in the private sector, and government should absolutely not be doing that. We should empower the chamber and build the right ecosystem to do that. Second thing, I believe in our entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs in our country and in our city, they are scrappy. These, we don't need to, I think one of the distinctions is, and I absolutely agree with you, and it breaks my heart too, JCPenney and Macy's are one thing, but it's another thing when you actually know those who are involved. The last thing I'll say is we need your help as residents. We need you as residents to go and shop when we try and open up new restaurants and stores. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you could help with Cookie, we'll move on to closings.
Actually, I haven't answered the question on this, Hugh.
I'm sorry, I lost you entirely, Doug. I apologize that. Doug Case.
Thank you. So this is one of my OKRs is objective and key result, right? So I think we don't have 5 years to see what happens. We have less than 5 weeks for some of these restaurants. They're going out of business. There's no traffic. The church is closed, so there's no traffic on Sunday that could be there. We have 30 restaurants. I couldn't believe it when the chef at La Mer Michel, Mark, explained that to me. He counted them. He counted them out. He got up to 32. We have 3 wine tasting rooms. We have no retail. The retail's leaving. They're evaporating. They're either going to Los Gatos or going out of business. So we need a critical mass of retail. I was out walking neighborhoods and my 22-year-old daughter says, why don't we put a Trader Joe's where that Saratoga shopping center is? You know, that would be a good idea. Or maybe a Big Leaf or something similar to Jeans. We lost Jeans because of some planning that didn't allow it to be included. And I wasn't part of that. I don't want to say it was anybody's fault, but we need something like that in downtown Saratoga. We've had it before. We've had markets down there before. But we need an anchor tenant like that to draw in more retail. I also think, you know, in talking to people, that we need to have a noise ordinance. When I'm sitting outside eating dinner with my wife and a motorcycle or a car stereo goes by very loudly. I mean, I know it's a state road, but well, how about a noise ordinance? Just when you get through Saratoga, when you get on Highway 9, you can let it go, but it's really difficult. We do have a music scene. It's closed down now, but as a musician, we perform at Stilettos. It's a wine bar, and there's windows they open up, and people walk by and hear it. And it can also go to the bank, and there's karaoke there, and it's a lot of fun. We could open up Wildwood Park and have music there on a Sunday afternoon. That's another idea. And finally, I think we should coordinate with Mountain Winery for concerts to start at 8 p.m. so that the local restaurants can have diners there before they go up to the concert. Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you all for making the moderator's job very, very easy, enjoyable, and my my sorrows relative to Chris Wallace, because he didn't have you as cooperative as you all are. Thank you. Closing arguments now, statements from everyone, and this one will start with Cookie.
Thank you. Thanks for a great forum. Great job. It's really been a pleasure, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. In closing, I'd like to talk about the future. I think we should be open to managed growth while we are still committed to maintaining what makes Saratoga, Saratoga, with its semi-rural feel. I'm guided by my experiences of Saratoga and the knowledge that if we don't preserve the heritage and character, once it's gone, we probably can't get it back. I hope that we continue to still be a community that comes together. These are the good practices I would like to continue. Continue our good stewardship of a balanced budget and our great safety record, which is one of the best in the state. Continue to support our impressive Saratoga area senior coordinating center that provides community access to social events, luncheons, programs, and more. Where we can improve is in the following: transparency and outreach to the community so that we all have access to information in a timely manner and all can participate in the review process. Protect our semi-rural atmosphere by making the hard, balanced decisions for what is best for Saratoga. And finally, cultivate and promote local business, as I just discussed. These are the things I want you to leave here knowing about me. I'm a lifelong Saratogan. 3 generations of my family have called Saratoga home. I love Saratoga. I invite you to visit my website to learn more about me. Go to electcookie.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Tina Walia.
Oh, I thought I was going to be the last one since I started. Okay, so I would like to firstly thank you, Hugh, thank you, SRC, and thank you all the candidates. My vision is going to be twofold because in a couple of years' time, we are looking at a post-COVID world. There will be changes that will happen during this time frame that we have to address. Meanwhile, the emerging issues that we cannot predict. The first and foremost thing for that is we have to be always prepared with better communication. We need to have a clear one source of communication from the city. We all saw what happened with the wildfires about 5-6 weeks ago, where we got incorrect information. I was some very amusing thing. Last weekend, I missed for the first time the state of the city because it was written in fine print under drive-in movie. So I was focused on the drive-in movie, which I usually go to, the outdoor movies. But anyway, so we need to improve our communication. I've talked about this. These are not buzzwords I'm coming up with. I've been working on these issues over the years. We need to be prepared for safety preparedness, as everybody here has been saying. Wildfire safety is something we need to be enhancing. That's a situation that's going to continue. Long-term vision for me is we have to, what I would actively do is protect the small town, low density character that we love in Saratoga. Vibrancy of the businesses. I have been involved with the noise ordinance. I worked very closely, painstaking effort, working with the neighbors and the businesses to introduce outdoor music in the village, and committed to the seniors. You don't have to listen to my promises. I have worked with 16 different planning commissioners in 10 years. Please look at my collaboration. My track record is there for you to see. Check out my website. And it is important for us to choose wisely to plan for Saratoga's future. Thank you.
Thank you. John Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Hugh, residents and fellow candidates. I think compromise is key to our future as a city that encompasses all of our residents' needs, not just those of a few who are friends with the right people. We need to be independent in our leadership, but also open-minded and willing to listen. A lot of politicians talk and talk and talk, but have trouble with the actual work of being a lawmaker. I think my experience as an attorney has prepared me very well for that. Not that I know everything about the law. There's much I'm learning through this process, but I think it enables me to understand the ramifications of certain actions in a way that other people may not. I've served the public interest in my career. I haven't just tried to make money for myself. I've worked on issues that benefit the public and at large. I've worked to help people with Social Security. I've worked with survivors of domestic violence. I've worked with consumers to protect their rights in lemon law. And this experience representing the interests of other people has prepared me very well to represent the interests of Saratoga. We need a strong leader who will stand up to these forces that we're facing and that would have our city become overdeveloped, frankly, with high density housing and irresponsible projects that are not mindful of the open space that they'll destroy, the parks that they'll ruin, trails that they'll override. These are serious problems. We also need effective responses to emergencies like wildfire. We need a backup radio transmitted, battery powered alert system because our current system is based on technology that fails almost always or very frequently in emergencies. And we also need a response to crime that makes sense. We need license plate readers to detect the stolen vehicles that are being used for property crime. And with that, I'll just leave you with my website. If you'd like more information, John Fitz for Saratoga, JOHNFITZ-FORSARTOGA.org.
Hey,
Thank you.
Thank you. Bilal.
Thanks, Hugh, and for your thoughtful questions. And thanks again to the community tonight for hosting this forum. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is an important month. Our city and our country are now literally in the midst of an election. In the past week, our president and over 200,000 people in the country have tested positive for COVID-19. A sobering reminder that we are far from past our present challenges. Just a few days ago, we all had to stay indoors again because of nearby wildfires. The challenges before us are not small. We will have to plan in multi-year cycles and will require a fresh take on leadership. Leadership that is transparent, energetic, consistent, and bold. For those that have made Saratoga their home and made it the special place that it is, firstly, I thank you, I appreciate you, and I will endeavor to fill your mightily large shoes in maintaining our city's character and greatness. And I think all the other candidates were truly grateful. I promise all of you that if I'm elected as your city councilor, I will work tirelessly in your best interest to keep our city the beautiful oasis that it is. I promise to prioritize the values of community, transparency, and gratitude when making decisions. I promise to listen first, then talk. You can learn more about me, my campaign, and my 30+ endorsements at my website, bilalforsaratoga.com. I would be honored to have your vote and wish you a lovely evening ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug Case.
Well, thanks. I would like to once again thank the SRC for hosting, and Hugh, you are my favorite MC. I'd also like to thank the Saratoga voters for your time this afternoon listening to this candidate forum. I hope this is just the start of working together with you. So just a reminder, council is elected to consider the various commission's recommendations with the residents in open meetings. 2 candidates have been on the Planning Commission for years and have been the ones presenting recommendations to the council. I'm not sure if the 9 below market rate units at Quito are going to solve any of our housing, low-income housing requirements from the state. And also, I feel it's sad that we lost possible ticket and tax revenues by missing the point of the whole Mountain View annexation, so that we didn't even have a discussion or a process that got it to a project for review. Reassessment of general housing plans since COVID and ADUs are the only path to meeting state mandates. Adding ADUs is already in process. I've mentioned that we added one 10 years ago for my mother-in-law. And with COVID pushing people out to work remotely, I really think we have to reassess the general housing plan. If we do that, the 3 million, the 3.5 million housing requirements may be lowered substantially, and towns like Saratoga will be able to maintain its character and charm. Finally, the SRC project should have public process. The residents love their campus. I've been there. They cut down over 100 eucalyptus trees to protect from fire and storm erosion that could cause those trees to be dangerous to the residents there. I've presented at least 6 or 7 village ideas earlier, and I'm seeking your vote for council seat. Please vote for me. Sorry, I had to shorten that. Bye.
Thank you. Renee Paquet.
Yay, thank you. Thank you, Hugh, all of the residents of the SRC for allowing us this opportunity. And to my fellow candidates, it's always a pleasure to spend time with you. I've learned a lot from each and every one of you. Growing up in a Persian American household, playing an active role in public service and thinking about the well-being of the entire community has always been a priority for everyone in my family. I've been involved with every aspect of community service, from education to seniors, from public safety to social justice. And not only as a commissioner or because it's part of my job, but this is because this is who I am. I have been serving my local and global community for over 2 decades. As Rotarian, like Cookie, I live by the motto, service above self. All of the issues we've discussed here today affect older adults, and I'm thankful for the connections. I'm thankful to have the connections I'll need as a council member to give them the equity they deserve and their rightful spot at the table. Saratoga has one of the highest populations of older adults per capita in the county. If we want to preserve our community's charm and character, we need solutions to the issues we all face as we age. I'm very humbled to have earned the trust of so many in our senior community over the years. Hi, Barbara, who's at the SRC. And I'm very proud of my track record in serving older adults. I believe all of my experiences and my reputation in both the local and international community serve as examples as allowing me to be one of the most credible, ethical, and considerate candidates for you. With my educational background in criminal justice, international relations, a doctoral candidate in educational leadership and nonviolent communication, I know how to maintain a safe environment for all of our residents and how to deal with conflict resolution and know when reform is necessary for law enforcement. I have the experience, leadership, communication, and advocacy skills that our community members deserve and will provide the transparency our city needs. I respectfully ask for your vote in November, and please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, or hey, come by tomorrow. I'm having a meet and greet at the Plumed Horse. I promise it's outdoor and it's COVID friendly, and I hope to see you there. Thank you so much.
Thank you all, and for the fact that all 6 of you are willing to give of your time, your effort, your spirit in a time as controversial as this, under the conditions that the whole nation is facing. We owe all of you. Thank you. Good night. Good health.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.